Welcome to this long-awaited episode of The Unlicensed Therapist. Today, we're not reviewing episodes, we're weaving them together. We're going to look at the tapestry of where one begins, and it's not that it ends, but the next one picks up, and how they tie together to help form you into a therapist. This is the episode that I wish someone had handed me on day one. Not a list of skills, not a stack of theories, but this map. A way to understand how all of these pieces fit together into a living, breathing, professional identity. Because becoming a therapist isn't linear. It's layered and it's messy, it's deeply human, and every part of the journey prepares you for the next. Today we're going to walk that path together. Every therapist begins with a story. I've told you my truncated version. We all have a pull, a spark, we fall into it, but however it happens, there's always this moment of recognition. But that moment where you step into the field, where you say, this is what I want to be, this is why I am here. You also realize something else. Your passion isn't preparation. We are taught theory to where we can close our eyes and quote it backwards and forwards. We can diagnose someone from 50 feet away. We are drilled with ethics into our brain, and we're taught research strategies. But there is no way that we're taught what to do once we enter that therapy room. And what I mean by that, there are certain things you cannot be taught. They're innate, they're a talent, and does that mean that if you don't have that talent, that you can't do this job? Absolutely not. I had a wonderful acting professor who would always say, some people have to work a little bit harder at being an actor, but anyone can do it. And so I say, some people have to work a little bit harder at being a counselor or a therapist, but truly anyone can do it. What we have to learn, what we have to hone, is the ability to survive the emotional labor of this work. How do I sit in silence? How do I manage myself, much less another human being who's sitting across from me crying? What is it that I should and shouldn't do? This is why honest talk matters, because the journey begins with a mismatch between what you imagined and what the work actually demands. And that mismatch becomes the foundation for everything, absolutely everything that follows. It's the first lesson. You can't grow into a therapist you're pretending to be. You can only grow from where you actually are. So you start with what you brought into the room. Once you step into the room, the first thing you learn is that nothing works. It does not matter if it's a theory, a technique, some clever intervention. Nothing's going to work if there isn't trust, if there isn't that therapeutic alliance there to stabilize so that you and the individual can work together towards a common goal. Everything else you learn as a therapist either strengthens the alliance or weakens it. Your identity shapes the alliance. Your confidence shapes the alliance. Your ethics shapes the alliance. Your self-care shapes the alliance. Your supervision shapes the alliance. Your theory shapes the alliance. The alliance is not a chapter in a textbook. It's the thread that runs through your entire development. Walking in and deciding to be a CBT therapist is a wonderful thing to decide. But if the person sitting across from you isn't looking for CBT therapy, if that's not what's going to work for them, then you need to rely on that reliance, that alliance. You need to be able to trust each other, listen to their needs, to either choose to continue to grow and learn in a different direction so that you can help them, or refer them out to someone who has the skill set that they need. Either choice is a viable, professional, ethical, and responsible choice. Once you understand the alliance, you hit the next wall, and that's yourself. Imposter syndrome isn't a flaw. It's a developmental stage. It's the moment when your passions outrun your experience. It's the moment when your body tells the truth before your mind can catch up. For me, it was, I know what to do, I just don't know why I'm doing it. I had no clue when it came to theory. I just knew I had been taught multiple different techniques and steps and had experienced that using them worked. And they always started with forming an alliance. So once I sat down in that room and I had it in my head that theory had to be the number one thing, it totally destroyed me. It forced me to slow down to a crawl. It forced me to ask for help. It forced me to argue and fight back with my professors because of what my experiences were and what their experiences were. And these were good things because it helped create limits and it made me intentionally decide to understand different theories that matched with who I am as an individual, who I was as an individual, and who I want to be as a therapist. And that meant I had to learn to ground myself. I had to learn not only to teach other people coping tools, but how to use them myself. That was the beginning of my clinical presence. Your competency menu, that's not just an exercise, it's the blueprint for your professional growth, your transparency with a client, not a confession, a relational strength. Imposter syndrome is not an enemy. It's a teacher that prepares you for the next stage. You've survived the internal storm. I survived the internal storm. And we began to ask the real question: who am I in the room? Identity is not something you choose. Although I'll admit, I walked into the room and I had in my head exactly what I was going to be. I had it all mapped out. But in truth, that map, while it's beautiful, that's not how things came to be. And up until a month ago, I didn't think that any part of it would fall into place. And there are aspects that came into place that I never dreamt of. And that's because your identity emerges. And it emerges through your practice. This is why we call it practice. It emerges through conversations with your clinical and licensure supervisor. It emerges through the mistakes that you make, through moments of connections. Identity is the integration point for everything you've learned so far. This includes your alliance style, your grounding skills, your transparency, your values, your personality, your cultural lens, your theoretical preferences. Identity is not a fixed role. It's flexible. It evolves. It's an evolving set of choices. You're not becoming a therapist. You're becoming your therapist. Once you've made sense of identity, theory finally starts to creep in and make a bit more sense. And I'm not talking about as a script or a formula, but as a practical lens, as a language, as the things that you do. Two therapists can use the same intervention and create completely different experiences. Two therapists can use different interventions and reach the same outcome. Theory becomes meaningful only when it aligns with your identity, your client, the moment, and of course, the alliance. This is where you stop performing therapy and you start practicing it. Then, of course, comes the shock. The therapy room looks absolutely nothing like the classroom, nothing like the sanitized book versions that you're given. This is the moment when a new clinician thinks they're failing. They're falling apart. They've done something wrong. But in reality, this is where the real learning begins. You can only go so far in the classroom. You have to take the leap into the therapy room so that you can continue to grow. The reality gap is where your identity, theory, and alliance skills are tested and strengthened. You learn how to prioritize, how to tolerate uncertainty, how to work with crises, how to use the minimal, sufficient response, how to stay grounded when the room gets heavy. This This is the crucible where therapists are formed. This is where you learn that what is called therapy in the classroom and what therapy is in practice is so much larger. The person who walks in and blows off steam for 53 minutes each week is getting therapy, because that ability to blow off steam and seeing you as the safe place to do it, rather than at work, at home, or out in the community, is what's keeping them as a functional member of society. For some of us, supervision is not a requirement, but it is a developmental container. It is something that, whether it's required because you do or don't have certain levels of licensure, you really need to seek it out. It is a gift. It's the opportunity to look at yourself in a mirror and get the opinion of another professional. Be able to tell them, this is what I want to be. Is this what I am? Those conversations shape your identity. They shape your ethics. They provide you with confidence, or they kill your confidence. They show you how to set boundaries with clients, how it's safe to do so and that it's okay to do so, and gives you the opportunity to use your clinical judgment not only in the room, but in a safe place where someone can pat you on the back and tell you what an awesome job you're doing. Because, yes, we even need that positive feedback. Supervision is where you learn to advocate for yourself, where you learn to ask better questions. It's where you learn to tolerate feedback. We are going to get feedback from our clients, and we need to be able to not take things so personally. It's also where you learn to protect your clients. It's where you learn to protect yourself. Supervision is the scaffolding that holds you until you can hold yourself. The junior licensure. It's not a waiting room, it is a developmental phase. It is a rite of passage. Your junior license is the moment when identity, supervision, ethics, and confidence converge into one, where you can say, I am no longer a student. I don't only have a piece of paper that says I have a degree, now I have something from the governing body that says I am a therapist. Now, it's true you're not fully independent. You're in between the place where growth accelerates. This is where you learn things like accountability, autonomy, clinical judgment, professional boundaries, ethical decision making. This is your next step to becoming a therapist. Ethics is not a rule book. Ethics is a compass. And here's the synthesis. Ethics is the integration of all that's come before: identity, supervision, the alliance, and self-awareness. Ethics is relational. Ethics is cultural. Ethics is contextual. Ethics is embodied. You don't learn ethics from a textbook. Yes, A textbook can tell you what a code of ethics is, but when you have to look at the cultural, the contextual, the relational aspects, those aren't in a textbook. They're in everyday, real life. You learn ethics through supervision, mistakes, discomfort, consultation, self-reflection. Ethics is how you protect your clients, and as always, it's how you protect yourself. From day one, it's preached at us. Self-care, self-care, self-care. We're told, get a calendar and schedule it. We're quizzed about it on a weekly basis. And then the farther we go through that graduate coursework, the more that gets piled upon us, to the point that we're taking classes and we're in a practicum and internship. It's like they're trying to kill us. And if we survive, if we make it out on the other side, it's a triumphant celebration. But the one thing that we most likely forget through that process is self-care. We cannot be good therapists if we forget that we're human beings. Self-care is not a luxury. It's not something that we should reward ourselves with. It's not a trend. Self-care is the foundation that supports us in our everyday life and in every part of our human development, which includes our professional development. Without self-care, the alliance suffers, our identity collapses, ethics blur, your supervision becomes crisis management, your theory becomes so rigid, and your presence disappears. Your humanity is not a liability. Your humanity is your greatest clinical tool. Your humanity is what makes you genuine. It what makes you present. It what makes you empathize with another human being. So here we are. We've made it through episodes 1 through 11, tying a nice bow on it with this episode, our episode 12. We didn't review our episodes, but we traced the developmental arc. We watched how having that story of how I step into the field has its place and leads us to seeing the importance of an alliance with another person, which then leads us to moments of self-doubt, and then moments where we find our identity because we've slowed down, and it allows what we learn in the classroom to become alive, and we experience the real therapeutic process, and we go, wow, wait, this isn't what I was taught, but with supervision there to support us, we're able to ground ourselves and maintain our ethics, and we remember the importance of being human, not being a therapist. When you yourself go to see your therapist, and I hope that each and every one of you have your own therapist, what do you want from that person? Do you want a robotic individual that can spit out theory and ethics, or do you want to have a relationship with someone, have a comfort level that you can open up and truly work through the emotional and mental baggage that we all carry with us? That's the journey that we're taking. It's not one toward perfection, it's not one toward certainty, but toward presence, humility, curiosity, and growth. I hope this special episode helped you see the bigger picture, and if it did, share it with someone who needs it. Our next episode is the penultimate episode of our season. It's our season ender. It's going to be a roundtable series with a group of other therapists. I'm going to be asking them some tough questions so that you can hear what others in the field have to say about these same topics, and you can judge for yourself. Has this been worth it? What will I learn? I sure hope you'll learn. Thank you so much for being here. Remember, we're all unlicensed as long as we're still learning, and I can't wait to see you next time. Bye-bye until then.